All right, let's dive in. New religious movements. NRMs, as they're often called.
Yeah, NRMs. Always interesting to see how these get talked about.
Sure, sure. And I know our listeners are familiar with the spiritual seek.
Oh, absolutely. The spiritual seek. Always a thoughtful take.
So we're using one of their recent articles as our jumping off point today, kind of as our guide.
Great. Looking forward to it.
So I think, people hear cults, right?
Yeah.
And it gets kind of sensationalized.
Totally. Headlines,
Yeah.
big, bold, scary.
Exactly. But the spiritual seek is, I think, better at going deeper than that, right? More nuance.
Absolutely. They try to get past the surface level stuff, get to the how and why.
So let's do that. Let's skip the cult debate for now. Let's talk about this whole idea of new religious movements.
Yeah. Where'd that term even come from? What makes them new?
Right, right. Like, historically, how did this category even emerge? Anything strike you about that?
Well, the term itself, I think, it really gained traction during, the cult war.
Cult wars, huh?
Yeah, like the 70s, 80s, lots of social change happening, people searching,
Especially, I think, younger generations back then.
Totally. It was like old values clashing with new ways of thinking, new desires, new needs.
And you can't forget, things like Jonestown, the Aum Shinrikyo attack in Tokyo, those really...
Definitely. Those events, they were tragic, and they really shaped how people saw NRMs. Sadly, they overshadowed the fact that most NRMs are peaceful.
Yeah. It's easy to focus on the extreme cases.
It is, but it's important to remember, right, that those are exceptions, not the rule.
Totally. And even defining new, it's tricky, isn't it? The article mentioned a bunch of different criteria.
Yeah, scholars, they love to debate these things.
So, what makes a movement new? Is it just how old it is?
Some say that. Compare it to established religions, see if it fits.
But the article also said some argue it's about how much it clashes with society, right? Like how much it pushes boundaries.
Yeah,
that
tension, right. Challenging norms, making people uncomfortable.
Which makes me think about the internet.
Yeah.
Has that changed things? Are online movements the only new ones now?
That's a great question, actually. It's something sociologists are, really wrestling with right now. The internet, it allows ideas to spread so fast.
Yeah. Connects people, builds communities, but in ways that are...
brand new. It's like a whole other layer added to what newness even means.
Exactly. And that's where organizations like Inform come in, right?
Inform.
Yeah. In the UK, they try to provide, neutral information about these groups, what they call minority religions.
Ah, so cutting through the noise.
Yeah.
Fighting the misinformation.
Right. Which makes sense with all the sensationalism out there.
Definitely. And they have this database, right? Over 5,000 groups in it.
5,000. Wow. That's
a lot. Gives you a sense of how diverse this landscape really is.
Wow. Okay, so speaking of diversity, I know you've been digging into some of these NRMs, the ones from the article.
Yeah, I did a little digging around, lots of interesting stuff. Where should we start?
Let's start with one people might know. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Mormons.
Mormons. Okay. Well, their beliefs are fascinating. Their idea of 3 realms of existence: pre-mortal life, earthly life, and then eternal life.
And that ties into their focus on family.
Big time. They believe families can be sealed together forever, through eternity. It's central to their whole worldview.
So that's why they do all that genealogical research, those temple rituals.
Yep, building those bridges between the realms. Powerful stuff.
Okay, now Scientology, another one that gets a lot of attention.
Scientology, yeah. Their whole thing about achieving clear through auditing. Their version of therapy, they believe past traumas mess with our minds, keep us from experiencing reality fully.
So by clearing those out,
you gain control, reach your full potential. That's the goal.
And then there's the Family International, formerly the Children of God. Right. They've had controversial past.
Oh, definitely. Their early practices, especially around sexuality and missionary work, lots of issues there.
Accusations of abuse, even.
Sadly, yes. It's a good reminder that not everything about these movements is positive.
For sure. Important to keep that in mind.
Always. Got to look at both sides, the potential benefits and the potential risks.
Okay, so let's move on. The ICOC sold-out discipling movement, they seem to have a very structured approach.
Very structured. Their goal is to basically restore, first century Christianity.
Okay, so a really pure form of it.
That's the idea. And they have this discipling system. Each member has a mentor, guides their spiritual growth.
Lots of accountability there, huh?
Oh, yeah, a lot. And that's what makes them, controversial to some. The recruitment, The level of control over members' lives.
Right. Okay, let's change gears a bit. Hare Krishnas. ISKCon.
Iskar. Rooted in that Indian bhakti movement. Lots of chanting.
Yeah, the chanting. I've always wondered about that. What's it all about?
So it's not just a ritual, it's devotional. The Mahamantra, they chant it to achieve Krishna consciousness.
Krishna conscious.
Yeah, it's about transcending the material world, connecting with the divine.
Like a form of meditation.
Active meditation, you could say that. Focusing the mind, the heart.
And they've gained followers in the West, too, right? Like George Harrison.
Yep. Shows how spiritual practices can cross cultures, resonate with lots of different people.
Definitely. Okay, another group with a big global presence, Jehovah's Witnesses.
Jehovah's Witnesses, known for their door-to-door evangelism and their millennialist beliefs.
Millennialist, meaning?
They believe the world is approaching like a major change, end times, that sort of thing.
And that belief really informs their practices, right? Like refusing blood transfusion.
Right. It's not just a medical decision. It's a deep religious conviction based on how they interpret the Bible.
Which can cause friction sometimes, right? With doctors, societal norms.
Absolutely. Raises all these ethical questions about religious freedom, patient autonomy. It's complicated.
For sure. It's really a powerful example of how religious beliefs can like clash with real world stuff.
Yeah.
Makes you think, right? About how to balance those things. The individual versus society, beliefs versus practical concerns.
Okay, so I'm hearing a common thread with a lot of these NRMs. It's like they're trying to address these big questions, right, in ways that maybe traditional religions aren't.
Yeah, I think you're right. People are drawn to them because they offer like a different perspective on life, death, the search for meaning, and they're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
Right, whether it's social norms, political systems, or even long-held religious doctrine.
Exactly. They push boundaries. They make people think, and that can be, can be unsettling for some.
Definitely. Now, before we go on, I want to make sure we're both on the same page.
Okay.
The spiritual Sikh, they're all about avoiding that sensationalism, right? Approaching these groups with an open mind.
100%. We can't just rely on stereotypes. These are real people with real beliefs, real motivations.
So as we keep going, we need to remember that.
Oh, absolutely. Nuance is key, right? Our listeners, they're smart. They can handle the complexity.
I agree. And that's what makes it so interesting, right? These deep dives.
Exactly. Okay, let's take a break here, come back, and explore some more of these groups in detail.
Sounds good to me. All right. Welcome back. Ready for more? So many interesting groups to cover.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig in. Let's talk about the School of Philosophy and Economic Science.
The School of Philosophy and Economic Science. Okay. Yeah, they're interesting. They blend Eastern and Western thought.
Right. That's what intrigued me. Like, how do they do that?
Well, they draw from Advaita Vedanta. It's a branch of Indian philosophy, emphasizes the unity of the self, the individual with the universal self, Brahman.
Brahman. Okay, that sounds pretty complex.
It is, but they try to make it practical, through their courses, their teachings.
So it's not just about, like, understanding it intellectually. It's about applying it.
Exactly. They have this idea of measure, encouraging a balanced life, meditation, self-reflection, even applying it to art and literature. It's about integrating those insights into everyday life.
A holistic approach.
Very much so. And, it speaks to something we see a lot with NRMs, this desire for a spiritual path that's not just about belief, but about experience, transformation.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, let's switch gears completely. Unification Church, founded by Reverend Sun Young Moon. They've had a pretty wild ride.
The Unification Church. Oh, yeah. Lots of twists and turns there. Their theology is unique. Lucifer-centered families, the need for restoration. And those mass weddings. Wow.
Yeah, those were something else. Spectacular.
Yeah, they captured the world's attention. And even after Moon passed away, his legacy is still, it's evolving.
Evolving how?
Some of his own children have started their own movements, their own interpretations of his teachings. The Sanctuary Church, for example.
Sanctuary Church, okay.
They blend unification theology with right-wing politics. It's a good example of how these movements can adapt, change with the times.
Right. So we can't just view them as static. They're dynamic.
Very much so. And that's what's so fascinating about studying them. They show us the complexities of belief, identity, how people search for meaning in a world that's constantly changing.
Speaking of change, that article in the Spiritual Sikh, it talked about the tension between NRMs and society.
That tension, yeah, it's always there. Melton, the sociologist, he argued that newness is inherently about tension with norms. These movements, they challenge the existing power structures, beliefs, and that can lead to resistance, fear, even accusations of brainwashing cult activity.
And we see that play out, right, with the ICOC, the family,
Yeah.
Scientology even.
Oh, definitely. And those controversies often come from clashing values. Take Jehovah's Witnesses, for instance. Their refusal of blood transfusions. It can cause conflict, especially in medical situations.
They're seen as life.
Exactly. So it becomes this question of individual rights versus societal expectations. Religious freedom versus medical ethics.
A tough balance to find.
It is. It requires empathy, understanding, being willing to have those tough conversations. It's not about agreeing all the time, but about recognizing the sincerity of those beliefs.
And trying to find ways to accommodate them.
As much as possible, yes, within the framework of society. It's not always easy, but it's important.
Okay, I want to circle back to the Hare Krishnas for a second.
ISKCON.
Yeah. Their chanting rituals, those are fascinating to me.
Yeah, that chanting, it's a big part of their practice. Remember, they're rooted in that bhakti tradition within Hinduism. Yeah. The Maha Mantra, it's not just words. It's about cultivating awareness of Krishna.
So more than just a ritual.
Much more. It's about transcending the material world, connecting with the divine.
And they're close, too.
Yeah.
Saffron robes.
Oh, yeah, those are symbolic, too, representing renunciation, dedication to their spiritual path.
Right, and they've made inroads in the West, haven't they?
Definitely, which I think shows how certain spiritual practices can be universal. They appeal to people from all sorts of backgrounds.
True. Okay, what about the Mormons? The LDS Church, their history is pretty unique, wouldn't you say?
The Mormons, yeah. They've gone through a lot. Their belief in continuing revelation, that's a big one.
Continuing revelation meaning?
God's word isn't limited to the Bible. It can be revealed through prophets like Joseph Smith.
And that's what sets them apart from other Christian denominations.
A big part of it, yes. And their history with polygamy, it's still a point of contention for some.
We know it's been renounced, right?
Officially, yes. But it still comes up. And their focus on family genealogy, oh, that's huge for them. They believe families can be sealed for eternity through special rituals in their temples.
So it's not just about this life, it's about the afterlife, too.
Exactly. Eternal family ties. Powerful stuff.
It seems like each of these groups, they offer a different answer to the big questions, right? Who are we? Why are we here? What happens after we die?
I think so. And that's what makes them so fascinating. They show us the different ways humans grapple with those questions. Search for meaning, for purpose.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Lots of different NRMs, different beliefs, practices. The Spiritual Seek article, it really highlights how complex this landscape is.
It does. And I think the biggest takeaway, the most important one, nuance, critical thinking. It's easy to get caught up in stereotypes, sensationalized stories. But these movements, they're complicated, made up of individuals, each with their own stories, their own reasons for being there.
So avoid those sweeping generalizations.
Yes. Do your research. Get different perspectives. Remember that understanding, it doesn't have to mean agreement. It's about appreciating the diversity of human belief.
Even when those beliefs might challenge our own.
Exactly. That's how we learn, how we grow. It's all about respectful dialogue.
Well said. This has been a really enlightening conversation.
Yeah.
And you know what? We might have time for one more NRM.
One more. Okay, I'm game. Which one are you thinking of?
The Brahmakumaris. They're focused on meditation, their cosmology. It really stands out.
The Brahmakumaris. Oh, yeah, they're a fascinating group. Lots to unpack there.
All right, so the Brahmakumaris, their meditation, their whole view of the universe. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, the Brahmakumaris, they started in India back in the 1930s, but they've spread all over the world.
Global reach, huh?
Yep. And they attract all sorts of people. What's really interesting is their emphasis on Raja Yoga meditation.
Raja Yoga. Okay, so what's that about? Is it like the meditation people do for relaxation, stress relief?
It's more than that. It's about self-realization, connecting with the divine.
Deep stuff.
Yeah.
And their cosmology is pretty unique, right?
Oh, yeah. Their view of time is cyclical, not linear like we tend to think in the West.
Cyclical. So how does that work?
They believe in these cycles, 5,000 years each, divided into 4 ages: golden, silver, copper, and iron.
And we're in the Iron Age now.
That's right. The age of conflict, ignorance, moral decline, all that fun stuff.
Sounds about right. So their meditation, is it about like getting through this rough patch?
Partly, yes. It's about purifying the mind, cultivating virtues, preparing for the transition to the next golden age.
So there's hope there, a chance for a better future.
Absolutely. They believe that through individual effort, through spiritual growth, we can contribute to a collective awakening.
A collective awakening, that's a powerful image.
It is, and it resonates with a lot of people, this idea of not just personal transformation, but also creating a better world.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. So many NRMs, so many different belief systems. The Spiritual Seek article, it really opened my eyes to how much is out there.
Me too. It's a reminder that the world of spirituality is vast, constantly evolving, always something new to learn.
And as we've discussed, it's important to approach these groups with curiosity and open mind. Avoid those easy judgments, those stereotypes.
Totally. Understanding doesn't require agreement, right? It's about broadening our perspectives, being open to new ideas, even if they challenge our own.
Well said. So to our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep asking questions. The world of NRMs, it's full of fascinating insights into human nature, the search for meaning. It's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. And remember, stay curious, stay open-minded. There's always something new to discover.
That's right. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, happy exploring.